Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Chani Sims, and we are here for the 2020 CISO mentoring call. And good to have you all back. And this time we got more people joining. So, and wish you all a happy 2020. I hope this is going to be a great year. And today we got Dida, Nissa, and Helen, who's going to be our speakers. Just to give a quick introduction about what CISO is, it's an open give back a mentoring platform. So we are trying to bridge the skill gap in cybersecurity industry and diversity gap and leadership gap. And we trying to, our vision is to try and create emotionally intelligent cybersecurity leaders. So we have three types of the structure comes in three forms, which is the 5-day boot camp where we offer up to 100% scholarships to people who wants to get into cybersecurity. And we also have quarterly meetups. So the last one we had was in London. So this month we had one in Colombo in Sri Lanka. And then the next meetup is going to be on the 17th of February in London at Tech UK. And the other format is the mentoring course, which we run every third Tuesday of the month. And this is one of them. So anyone can join. And I just wanted to quickly introduce myself. So I wear three hats pretty much. I'm the managing director for Meta Defense Labs, and who are actually funding the CISO cause at the moment. I'm also working as a cybersecurity and GDPR consultant, which my focus area is more Cyber Essentials, ISME framework, GDPR, and ISO 27000. And I also do security audits for companies, gap assessments, and consultancy around these areas. And virtual CISO is one of my favorite things that I do. Take companies through a journey of cultural transformation. And my third one is I volunteer for the CISO. So that's about me. I'll let Dida introduce herself. Dida, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Dida Argilici. I work in cyber risk at the moment. I've done governance risk compliance on my career. So I've been doing CISO for the last 6 months, maybe. I've been actively contributing, and I've been
Since you
enjoying
started
it very
recording,
much.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm from Turkey, but I've been living in London since 2012. Yeah, I like being in the communities, cybersecurity and women in cyber communities all across London. That's me.
Thanks, Dida. So one of our speakers today is, first of all, our topic is public speaking and leadership. So we got two fantastic speakers. One is Nissa Vitana. She's the project director for CISO, as well as she's a director for Meta Defense Labs, who runs the operations in Southeast Asia, which is in Sri Lanka now. And secondly, speaker is Helen Rabe, global CISO of Abcam, a biotechnology company. And she's also one of the top 50 most influential women in cybersecurity. So I'm not gonna talk too much about you guys. I'm gonna ask Helen first to go and introduce herself, please, and also talk about what you do now, and how you get to where you are today, and your journey. A bit about that.
Thank you very much, Chenny. My apologies to everybody in advance. Unfortunately, my video is not working, although I don't think that's a bad thing for most of you. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be on this platform. I'm familiar with the work that CISO does. I see it just gaining a momentum. Every time I look, you're up there. And I turn around and LinkedIn has another CISO. So you guys are really on a roll. And well done for that. I mean, I remember when you first started out, so it's getting there. From my side, a global CSO, it sounds really lofty, doesn't it? It's probably one of the most stressful jobs in the world, but I love it. And much like Dida and yourself, the female CISO movement is growing. And it's a strong community, and I'm enjoying the fact that I'm a part of it and I'm watching it grow from its infancy. So I think we're the first vanguard, basically, ourselves. We're the foundation stones, and we're going to keep moving this forward. And I look forward to being part of this community and growing with it. My role here as a global CSO, well, ABCAM, as you mentioned, life sciences and biotechnology. It's a highly complex field. It's fascinating, not least of which because a lot of the work that we do is based in China. So that offers me the opportunity to do security in China, which many of you, I'm sure, can appreciate is not straightforward. I do have the global remit as well that covers also the physicals. So I don't just do the cyber and information. I do the physical security. So there's the convergence in that as well. And this is effectively a greenfield site. And I would say that life sciences and biotech in particular are not very mature in security. So I'm looking forward to being able to start establishing a foundation and building a community around life sciences and cybersecurity, and seeing if we can start building out the maturity framework for this particular vertical. And that, I think, is me for now.
Thank you, Helen. I think we're going to get the same from Nina as well. So could you tell us about yourself, Nina? Nisa, sorry.
Hi, Dida. Thank you so much. Yeah, hello. Yes, again, I'm Nisa Vitana. Like Chani said, I'm also the proud volunteer of and also currently serve in the board of directors of Meta Defense Labs for Sri Lanka. Yeah, I've been in many industries, mainly telecommunication, FMCG, F&B, education, manufacturing, and exports, to name a few. But in terms of education-wise, I'm a chartered marketing professional and currently reading for my MBA at the Cardiff Metropolitan University. And out of many positions I've held, I must admit that I thoroughly enjoy what I do currently, working with Chani and Clive. And never in my life I thought that I would end up in cybersecurity. But yeah, here I am. And if I knew earlier, I could have definitely dropped everything and learn cybersecurity or hacking or something like something which interests me. This my senses were better than now. So yeah, and I still think I'm qualified to do that because I still have the ability to listen to my husband while concentrating on my computer. And I'm called the Batman or Batwoman by Clive because I have the ability to stay up all night if I want to. Yeah, so that's about me.
Thank you. Thanks so much. So I have two reminders. The first is the disclaimer that the views that we discuss here are our personal views and not that of our employers. And also, we have a Zoom group chat. So if any of the participants who are on mute want to ask questions, please type your questions there. I will keep an eye on there and I'll relay the questions to our speakers. And before we move on to our questions to the speakers, I want to congratulate Chani for her first a great achievement.
Oh,
And
thank you.
I got very emotional while listening to it. And do you want to tell us about how you felt? How did you prepare and what are your takeaways before we move on to our questions?
Yeah, thanks, Data. I forgot about that. Um, that was a challenge because I was talking about that in the call yesterday as well on Francesco's mentoring call. It was one of the most challenging things I've done because even though it's TEDx, the three letters just gets to your head, and you want to do a TED level talk, and but we had I only had 3 weeks to prepare. Normally, you get months to prepare for these kind of talks. So I wrote about 1,800 words talk with slides, about 15 slides, and prepared for it within the 3 weeks. But it kept changing because I didn't feel right, and then I sent it around to the team to research and find, look at every word to see that if that it doesn't cause problems or anything like that. And we finalized the talk. It got approved on the day before the talk, and I was practicing at the rehearsal day at the base camp, and I couldn't get it working. It was like too many clicks to click on the thing, and they were like saying you can't look at the slides, and I didn't know what I'm talking about because I can't see the slides. And then they were saying I could only operate my um, clicker with my left hand, and I'm so bad with multitasking. I was trying different things. It just, it wasn't working. And I was so upset. And even the team was like saying, Chani, just drop the whole thing and then just talk naturally. You talk better like that way. So, but when you prepare so much and you're like in stress thinking you're going to mess it up. So, a few hours before the talk, well, the night before, I kind of decided, okay, this is not working. I need to drop it all. If I go on using the slides, I'm going to definitely mess things up. So I dropped everything and I decided I'm just going to do the talk, my story.
That's wow. That is just so brave.
It was very emotional. Even I took the parts that from the other talk which I wanted to add, but a lot of the stuff I decided, okay, I want to tell my story, nothing else. And very emotional. I was in the room crying, just trying to get the talk together. And then my mom and Clive and Jackie, our advisory member, they all drove up to Leicester. Luckily, they came by like dinner time. I was like, look, guys, I need help, forget my old earlier talk. Just hear me out and tell me if it's okay. And that's what I'm going to do. And I just talked in Russian. They're like, yeah, that's better. That's good. And but I needed to make sure that I remember this now because I just said it as it is. So I had to sit and write the whole talk for about 2.5 hours. So I went to sleep around 3 o'clock or something by the time I finished writing. And then the next day morning, we had to get up at 6, be ready by 6:30 to get to the place and venue. And then from there, then we had to do this session. Like there was like a yoga session. They prepare for you for these things. And so I was like, name on yoga, I just need to practice this talk. So I just canceled all that. I just went to a corner and then just read it again, just so I can remember. And after that, I felt like I can't keep on doing that because I can't memorize things. And I just listened to music after that, and I just went and kept thinking, okay, I'm just going to say whatever comes to my mind. But I remembered a lot of the things I wanted to say. When it comes to my turn, it was at 11 o'clock, and I was nervous because there was like so many people on the stage, like more than 100 people. And I remembered that something that Maria taught me one time when I got nervous. I used to hate public speaking, so I used to get very nervous. And she told me that go there and pretend that you own the place and just say things. And I remembered that, and I thought she had a margarita or something, but didn't happen. But anyway, I just went there and yeah, I just said it, and luckily I remembered stuff. And then the emotions were like flooding, and I was like, "Stop crying! You're not gonna cry. Just say it as it is." So yeah, I could still see there were like you can see there's some of the times like bit of emotion coming out, but I controlled myself so I don't like go crazy crying or something. And yeah, I must say that after I complete, I felt so good, and I think I said everything I had to say. And I've never done that in a talk in my life. I mean, I've done public talking and speeches in different places. But every time I come out, even with the slides, I think, oh, damn, I missed that part I wanted to say, But this one, I said everything I wanted to say. And so because my biggest worry was that I will not regret that in 5-10 years time when I look back on this talk, I didn't want to regret. um, at the moment I don't regret that talk. And yeah, so one of the talks that I feel like yes, I'm happy and proud about it. Yeah, that's the whole story about that. But
Well
I would
done.
recommend
Nice. Well done.
practicing your story talk before you go on a tennis platform. don't do what I did, but yeah, it's what it was. Thanks.
I don't think I'll ever do a TED talk. So
No, you should. You should push your boundaries because that's what I also thought. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to do a TEDx talk. Because what happens is when you reach, I think they said that when you reach 20K views, it goes to TED platform, it seems. I don't know how it's how when or if that's going to happen, but so it was like added stress as well. I hope it goes to that, then it'd be awesome. But yeah, it needs 20K views. So yeah, you should push yourself to go out of your comfort zone.
yeah, I should start small though. I'll start small. Thank you for sharing your experience with us.
Cheers.
So I want to start with some questions. I want to start with Helen. Helen, glad to meet you. We haven't met before face to face, so it's good to meet you finally.
Likewise, I'm sure we'll get the opportunity. I'm sure.
I hope so. And I want to ask you about the MBA, because you have an MBA and I don't have an MBA, but people around me who go through the journey all tell me it's a very challenging journey. How did you decide to do it? What stage were you at your career when you decided to do it? And how did it impact your leadership?
So I'm going to answer most of these questions in a roundabout way, and I apologize to everybody on the call. Nothing is linear. I did my MBA, and I'll be honest, without the most noble of intentions. I did my MBA, and this is going to tell you how old I am, back in 1999, okay? And I did it because I didn't want a glass ceiling on the salary. And at the time, the industrial culture around MBAs, particularly accredited MBAs, was the sky was the limit with regards to having an MBA. I didn't do an accredited MBA. And back then, I'll be, open about this as well. The internet wasn't what it is today. So I did it correspondence. That meant I had to attend some night classes once a week in London. I was a self-employed IT contractor. I'd only started my IT career in the mid-90s. Prior to that, and I'm going to share this, I was a qualified fireman. So my path, so my path to where I am today has not been a straightforward path, but no one's ever should be, I don't think. It was never a predestined, this is where I'm going to go, but I was clear about certain things that had to form the foundation for my career going forward. And one of them was the MBA, but mostly that was around, let me get this so that I don't glass ceiling on salary. And this gives me opportunities later. I must tell you that the two key benefits from the MBA were this for me. Self-discipline, first and foremost, because I was self-employed. I had to study at nights, and you're right, it's tough. Anybody who tells you that they sailed through an MBA and did it without sacrifice, I want to meet them because they're a rare breed. The second is that, it helped me understand the other side of the fence, so to speak. I love IT. I have a natural disposition for it. And I think that's part of the reason why some of us do this job so well, is we are instinctively drawn to it and we intuitively do it well. But the business wasn't something I grasped until doing the MBA, and I could see it from a different perspective. And I'll be honest, it's only now that cybersecurity and information security is moving to a more human-centric approach that MBA is finally starting to pay dividends to me from an experience perspective. A lot of that stuff that I learned back in the 90s is probably dated now, but the principles still hold sound. And I've got to be honest, it really has helped me with my perspective with my business and how to speak to my business. It's a language that they understand, particularly if your reporting line goes into a business function like your chief finance officer or your chief risk officer.
I see.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, something that I've also experienced is when I started the company first, because I used to be a techie as well. And then when we started Meta Defense Labs, it was a journey. It was like doing MBA, and we're still doing it. So it's a never-ending journey. And,
you do get to the end. It will pay its dividends, but you may not see them straight away.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we are finally, seeing results. I mean, it took us about 3 years to get the company built and having it stable. But it just there was a lot of learning. Two of us had to go through about to learn about how to talk risk to business, how to talk
Yeah.
tech to business, and that was like one of the biggest challenges. um, and something I talked about yesterday as well. So I had to pretend that I'm talking to a 5-year-old and explain things, that way.
Hmm.
Um,
Yep.
but yeah, and also strategy. That's kind of also where I'm now focusing on, understanding
Hmm.
strategy, how you do that. So it is a journey as well. I can see how hard it can be to go get a MBA, and some people even say they are marriage breakers. you know?
That there can be. I
Yeah,
can see it. I was single at the time.
yeah.
And I can't imagine what it would have done. I had no social life to speak up. I was the saddest person around. But there are sacrifices when you do an MBA. Something has to give.
Mm.
And that's the challenge that you have to do. It's the self-discipline along with the what's the sacrificial I'm going to be. If you've got a family, you've got to know that you've got to be a rock for you to lean on, but you do take a social hit. You have to.
Yeah, that's true.
Commitment. Yeah.
Nissa, I think Nissa's going through one as well. How do you feel about that, Nissa?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with Helen about the challenges, how you see yourself, going through that. I'm still going through it, and well, bucket list. Even started checking on MBA before I even obtained my degree. So I thought I'm gonna somehow earn my MBA before I turn. That's kind of I know that then, and the way we think exposed me into looking.
Your line
I've
is
worked in 1,000 people multinational companies. Can you hear?
it's breaking up. Do
Is
you
it
want
better?
to turn the video off and try? See if there's a delay.
Please in okay. Let me
Can everyone hear her? Try that now, Nissa.
can you hear me?
Yeah,
Can you
it's
hear me now?
yeah, it's
We
breaking up
can
a
hear,
bit.
but it sometimes breaks.
Okay, yeah. So I was telling I worked in 1,000 people companies and startups who often wondered about like how can by the higher management. So you know kind of question as to some of those decisions were taken at the times and the facts they used it. So now that I'm reading for it, I kind of understand what strategies or strategic processes that the high heads of those companies must have gone through. For me, it's like reverse psychology because I've been in the shoes of employee and now thinking like you know how the CEOs think. So I think like you learn, like Chani mentioned, you learn to make strategic decisions. That's a nice experience, and choose to how, because it's, I mean, I kind of wanted to enhance my skills in strategic thinking and to make a positive difference. But end of the day, you learn, you transform yourself, yeah. And surely there are like challenges and things that you have to let go.
Cool. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, thanks. So
Yep.
I got a question for Helen again. So continuing from learning theme, for me, I had invest in different. So when I first started specializing in security, I had to try out different areas. Hacking to or forensics to or auditing GRC, all that. Um, and then only I kind of realized, okay, I probably want to focus on these areas. So I had a flavor of everything and decided, okay, I'm going to do what I do now. Did you always knew that where you wanted to work in InfoSec?
No, most definitely not. So I specialized in IT networks, project and program management, and that's where my elective and my MBA was as well, was in project and program management. So the strategic overview. Security was always in the background. It isn't what it is now, but it was there, and I was fascinated by it. Now, unlike you, I didn't want to go into the tech. I was already in IT networks. I could do the architecture. I could hold the conversations. But here's where the challenge came in. I wanted to move into security, but I couldn't, because back in the mid-noughties, if you didn't have the technical deep knowledge and the application of that, that was an obstacle. Because back then it was a very secret squirrel environment. Everybody held security in a sort of a dark art kind of. It was really seen as a really sexy subject, but nobody knew what it was, because the
Probably
old
like
guard.
AI nowadays.
Yeah, no, the old guard was strongly ex-military people. And they played their cards close to the chest. It was seen as a specialized area, and if you didn't have the technical expertise, you couldn't get in. I fell into InfoSec by extension. I mean, I started doing cleanups. I was a fixer behind the scenes before people had to disclose their compromises and their breaches. I then started specializing in going into financial services customers, and you won't see this on my CV, and doing cleanup exercises with forensic companies. And then that's where I started to get my contacts. And then when it got to Costa, I was doing a cleanup exercise there, and I gave my reports, and they turned around and said, "Okay, great. Can you do this for us?" And I was stunned. I was sort of, "I beg your pardon. Can you do this for us? Everything you've told us, can you go away and fix this and build our strategy and bring it together?" And I thought, you know what? I'm going to take this and grab it. And I thought, sure. My learning curve was exponential, but I was offered an opportunity to move into as the head of InfoSec for Costa. I took it, I ran with it. So no, to answer your question, I didn't have a linear, I know exactly where I want to go. But what I did do the moment I did get dropped into that was quickly do my CISM and my C-risk. So I could get the foundations, and basically it is a rehash of some of the risk stuff that you learn in your MBA, as well as the common sense that you can apply. But to go forward from that, I have definitely continued to do the personal development and the investment in the courses. You have to in our line of work.
Yeah.
Our line of work is constantly evolving. I'm a strategist. I am a CISO. I have strong tech teams who deliver my first line. I don't need to get into the technology. And I've got to be honest, nowadays with the scale of what we deal with, you can't be all things to all people. You need to become an SME. So my SME focuses on risk and strategic security and building out an ISMS from a greenfield. And, I'm currently doing a cyber risk course through Harvard. It will never stop. The investment shouldn't stop. So personal development 101, it never stops.
That's
Not
great.
if you're in security.
Yeah, no, I agree with you completely. I mean, I remember when we were, I started as a techie IBM engineer. So when it was, security is always there, but you don't talk about it. And when you design systems and build them, it's always there. Sometimes the frustration for us, for me, was that it was looked at as a QA item at the end, and that's kind of how we thought, okay, why not do it our way, secure by design solutions. And like you, I also had to go through all these training courses, your CISP to ethical hacking to all these things to get skilled up so quickly. And once you're there, you then understand how things work. But now you have to focus on specializing one area. So I'm also specialized, like you, I'm also specializing in virtual CISO and also risk governance areas, which is, I think I really like that area of work, because I get to help with strategy, make leadership decisions, and also influence the leadership.
Yeah.
Which is one of the interesting areas, talking to lots of different clients and understanding their background. Because technology, the things that I learned in the past, they're just out of date now. I can't even use those technology anymore. But managing risk, I think it can't get out of date. You're still trying to apply how you can manage different types of risks.
Yeah,
exactly.
very
It will
universal.
always be valuable, risk management.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to ask a question to Nisa.
Yes.
Um, it's again in the leadership area, and it's I know you are big on trust, building trust, and how it's important in leadership. So my question to you is, how do you think a leader should or can build trust and rapport with their teams?
Well, firstly, I think trust is something that you should earn. You can't give it or buy trust from anyone. So, trust within the organization is also as important as your trust with your spouse or family. Your employees must believe in each other and believe in the leadership that you bring in. And when that trust shattered, your communication, your teamwork, and your performance, they all suffer. So it's important that we make a connection, and I often try to create a personal connection to it, so that because you could be the CEO to your staff, but you're another ordinary person. And so I have also reading some management books that as a person's power increase, their perceived trustworthiness goes down. So we often see that. I mean, if we look around us, we often see that in politicians, and no one believes them unless they uh, prove themselves. So I think same applies in organizations as well.
True.
To live by what you believe and what you value. So you can't just be having values hanging in nicely framed photograph or just on your website, but you have to practice what you preach. So you have to be transparent in that way, and then truthful, because the moment you don't share information, your employees try to fill that void with rumors. So the other thing that I found is that team rather than command. So that's called the motivation, I believe. So, and do believe that people will trust you if you trust them.
So true.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So true.
I got a question for Nisa quickly.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't mention about this part, but you were a newsreader at one point for the national news channel in Sri Lanka.
Oh,
Yes. Do you want to share that story? How did you end
Oh,
up doing that, and how you
well,
managed it?
Chani, that was during Stone Age, I must tell you. Because we've come long way from that. Yeah, so actually,
Yeah, but
it
you're
was
still big.
something.
You were a celebrity then.
So, I mean, that was something that I admired as a kid, because I think it was because my mom used to be a newsreader since, we were kids, and kind of tried to imitate her whenever I get a chance at home. And, I remember I used to grab the newspaper and go behind the TV and muttering because I couldn't even read the words at that time. Um, yeah, but then I guess that and talk like I thought she was talking to everyone in the country, so that kind of fascinated me. And then after I finished my school, I kind of applied for news reading, and somehow I got selected. But knowing that my mom was very particular about pronunciations and getting things right and all that, I kind of didn't want to tell her that I got selected. At that time. Yeah, I mean, I so got selected, and one day apparently, for I presented the 6 o'clock news, and my mom got to present 8 o'clock news. So I guess we are
You
in the
got
history
caught.
book somewhere. And it was a nice experience, Johnny. So I think I dropped halfway because my higher studies, but preparation and being real, going fearless, being live, most importantly, because it was live reading, and being confident in front of the audience. It was nice. Yeah.
Thanks. That's great. And I remember I used to see her on news, and like, we'll just quickly go and watch. Oh, this is on news. She's really news. That was quite nice to see. And so you started. I mean, I don't know if it's class as public speaking, but it's a different experience as well, right?
It was, yeah, it was a different experience. But then, when you go through that, you also get training to different areas. So you can't just, when you read some sad news, or when you deliver something sad, you can't be smiling and in the news taught all that. And we were also taught, like, how you present yourself, because that was, although it was in front of a camera, the whole country sees us.
Yeah.
So it kind of built my confidence too.
Yeah, that's great. I just saw picture popped up on the screen. I couldn't figure out who posted that or finish reading it. But anyway,
I
it
think
looked
it was
interesting. Oh, there it is coming.
Mubashir.
So you can buy a man's time. You can buy a man's physical presence at a given place. You can even buy a measured number of muscular motions per hour or day, but you cannot buy enthusiasm. You cannot buy intuition. You cannot
Initiative.
initiative. Yeah, you cannot buy loyalty. You cannot buy the devotion of your hearts, minds, and souls. You have to earn these things. Oh, that's really nice. I
That's
guess
nice,
that's
It's
yeah.
powerful.
part of what we were discussing about.
Mhm.
Thanks for sharing that. I don't know who was sharing it. Anyway,
It's Mubashir.
sorry, who is it?
Thanks.
Okay.
Mubashir.
All right. Hi. Thanks. So next question from me is to I think Dida, it's your turn.
Yeah,
You
I
got two
have a
questions.
question. I have a question to Helen. Helen, you already slightly mentioned that how important it is to keep learning. So how do you encourage your teams to keep on learning and further their self-development?
That's an interesting question. Each one of us has an individual management style, and that's unique to us and the teams that we build around us. But I found in this, my personal experience has been that, by way of example, has been the most effective encouragement I can give my teams. And by that, what I mean is I am very open and transparent about my personal development areas, those areas where I fall down as a leader. I'm very clear with my teams what I believe they are, and I share that with them. So I get their support and their involvement with regards to, right, is it me making this up? Do you support this? Do you agree with this? And the reason I do that is because it then allows them the openness when we consider their challenges. They don't feel it's a weakness. They're not afraid to bring that to the front. They're not afraid to step back from what that personal development means. So if you as a leader are open and transparent with your people, they tend to follow by example. And I found that, with regards to furthering their self-development, looking at those areas, rather than seeing themselves as weak or failures in this regard, they understand that the people who lead them are just as flawed and fallible. So that's pretty much how I approach it.
That's great. Authenticity. And
pretty much.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Sorry,
as was mentioned earlier, trust is an earned value. It's an earned virtue. It's not easily given. And when you do this with people, you establish that trust baseline.
That's
true.
Yeah.
I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah. So my question is, how do you ensure you keep top of the advancements in your industry as a leader of your team? So do you with security, it just changes every day. How do you keep up with that? It's a
This
challenge
is
for all of us, I
such
think.
an overwhelming industry. It is an overwhelming
God,
industry.
yeah.
And I have learned to become extremely tactical with what I read. So I've learned to go to certain blogs, certain online magazine sites. My RSS feeds are a thing of beauty because they are curated. Otherwise there's too much noise. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I'm fortunate enough, and I was very clear on this when I have a security architect that has tended to follow me from job to job. He's highly, highly technical, but he's also a security technologist. He is a futurist. He loves technology. So what he does, and one of his job description, he coaches us as a team. He coaches me, and he coaches the wider team. So when I'm building out my strategy, and I'm fortunate most of the time when I walk into a role, then I have to build it from scratch. He helps me look. It doesn't just look at the right-hand quadrant. We look at innovation out there, progressive security that some people haven't heard of, that allows me the opportunity to build out in my strategies. I'm fortunate. So I have to obviously have my own independent, you know, what do I read? What do I interact with? And that includes networking and personal events. And I'm sure, Chani, you can appreciate this because of how many you get invited to. You have to look at the quality versus the quantity on this. So you have to be very selective about your time on this. It's a constant activity. Networking on peer groups to make sure that we talk to each other about products, making sure that, you know, if anybody's used this product already, how did they find it? How did they find the service offering? It is a massive topic. So you can't do it all by yourself. So I have my own, as I said, reading. I have my security architect who happens to be a great technologist and he coaches me. And then I have my network of peers.
You know, your story just sounds so similar to mine. So your security architect isn't Clive Sims, right?
No, my architect is my unicorn. I refuse to share him with others. I won't tell his name. People will poach him.
Because it's just so much like, I mean, how I have to do things as well, because, you know, you have to run a business plus do your job and do other things.
Yeah.
It's so challenging to manage your time, and you can read so much when you wake up, and, you know, I have to align how much time am I going to put for social media, how much time for reading, and it's just like constant challenge.
It's never off. That's
No.
the problem I have. It's a never off society. So when I do get the chance to turn off my social media, I'm not a social media person. I'll be very honest. I hate social media with a passion, but I think I go the sum total of Facebook and I have to do LinkedIn. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't have Instagram. I don't tweet. I don't even know how to use Twitter. I should be embarrassed to admit that, but I don't have the capacity to take all of this on. So you have to be extremely selective.
Yeah.
And, you know, and we'll talk to this later when we talk about the platforms for, you know, at our level, personal brand is important. And I hate that in and of itself because it's just not playing to a comfort set. But you have to choose this wisely because you cannot do it all. You will burn out. The type of jobs we do, the type of industry we work in, if you don't get very tactical and very, clear about what you need and what value it brings to you, you'll get overwhelmed.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I've even avoiding some of the conferences. I've stopped going for big conferences anymore because I get overwhelmed by the amount of vendors and the products there is, because you cannot keep up. And then I also try to select, you know, what is going to teach me something new, and it's challenging. So I like you said, I also always have, whenever I need extra technology skills, I have to rely on Clive as well, because, you know, otherwise, or my network, otherwise we can't do it alone. We need to talk to people and get their help as support as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, otherwise we can't function on our own and do a good job. You need help.
Yeah.
And then you end up with imposter syndrome.
I guess there's that, or you just look at imposter syndrome and go, you know what? I don't have time to worry about that. Just get on, do the job, and ace it. Just deal with it. And I think most of us, when we look at the imposter syndrome, and I can't speak for others, but I had that battle about 3 years ago. And Jane Franklin, who Chani knows, was talking to me about this, and she said, we need to work on that. And I said to her, actually, no, I'm done. I'm not even going to get into the topic. I'm just going to do my job, do it well, and just ace it to the best of my abilities and competencies. Because if I have one more thing to worry about, I'm just going to drive myself nuts. So,
Yeah,
you know, you've got to come to a level of acceptance with imposter syndrome. And I found that that's what helped me with that. We're
that's very
all
true.
exceptionally good at what we do. We just need to value ourselves and just go, you know what? Move on. I do this, I do it well.
Yeah, that's true because you can't do everything perfect. Nothing's perfect. And you just have to, when you come to a point, for me especially, I have to do lots of things, you know, your sales presentation to your proposal to, and then going and doing an audit to your, you know, security review, whatever. So you have to choose which one are you going to do best. And often you use some of my team, I just, you know, if I do a proposal, here's a proposal, I don't care about the grammar or the spelling, I just do it, someone else correct it for me, you know. I can't always worry about is it perfect, is it perfect. I just prioritize what should be perfect and then focus on that, and then rest I either delegate or, you know, give
Yeah.
someone who's really good at it to do it. Or like when it comes to graphics in my team, I'm the worst person to do presentations. So I just put the content in and somebody else does the presentation. So that
Rectify.
works us. Yeah. So you just find the different teams, diverse teams where you have more challenge, different skill set. So and they complement each other. So which is a good thing. Otherwise, you can't be good at everything. It doesn't work like that. With me
Yeah.
especially, I sometimes even think I'm dyslexic because you type something and you just like see so many spelling mistakes and things. Then you have to go and check. Um, yeah, um,
Yeah,
imposter
I think
syndrome.
it comes with experience as well. As you spend time on the field, in the field, then you start to realize you can't know everything.
No,
Yeah,
it's
that's a valid
impossible.
point. And I mean, I don't mean to be invalidating of your points on imposter syndrome, Detta. I think
Mm.
the only counsel I will offer women coming up the ranks and those, you know, like me is this: you have to be your own best friend. If your inside voice is your own worst enemy, that imposter syndrome, that'll bury you.
That's true.
So,
Exactly.
That's very true.
Yeah.
ladies, forgive me, I have a meeting in 15 minutes, so I'm just conscious of time.
Okay,
Sure. Yeah. I think we got
moving on
one more
then.
question for Nisa. Um, Nisa, I want to ask you about your entrepreneurial journey experience.
Mhm.
What was the biggest challenge you faced?
Yeah, well, Chani, initially we started off as a hobby, and then eventually, ended up being the biggest fast food place in the town. And the challenge we had was to commit to our time because you know that it was me and my husband. We both were running full time at one point, but as it got bigger, we had to hire more people. So as we both started working in different jobs, it was challenging to manage our day job as well as the business because we are kind of people, whom commit to 100% for what we do. So we had to prioritize at the point. And so one day we had this customer that was after 4 successful years. I must tell you that one of our customers walked into the restaurant and offered to buy the business. So I still think that was the great achievement that we had. And uh, this guy eventually made our brand disappear, but yeah, running on his own name. But yeah, it was a bit sad, but then that's okay.
You moved on from that. I
Yeah,
think that's
of course.
I think that's where I really like you. Whatever you talk about, Nisa's done it in her life.
I was about to say, so you've done this entrepreneurial restaurant, you've done news reading, you're now in cybersecurity, and you're studying an MBA. You have more. I need some of your energy. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
I just don't understand sometimes. You know, when we're in UK, we just type something on um, our chat and hoping that Nisa's gonna not gonna reply, or you get a reply back at 12 o'clock at night in UK time, and she's still up. So that's why we call her Batwoman. You know, I don't know how she gets the energy. She doesn't sleep. She just like always, up for anything. And I think that's like the best. That's why I think we're really glad to have her in our team.
Oh,
Really lucky.
I'm so humble and honored, Chani.
Is there any, I think we got 10 minutes before the call finish. I think we should open it up to the audience. You guys can go off mute if you like, if you have any questions. Yeah, it's your turn to ask questions now.
They all disappear.
Anyone else wants to ask questions?
They're all there. Don't be shy, guys.
Come on.
Hi, I guess I have a question. I feel like it has been answered, but it's one I thought about in regards to public speaking. So I get incredibly nervous and I feel a lot of the times I jumble up my words. Would you say networking would be a good way to prepare yourself in the event that you get asked to do some public speaking? If you're around peers and other colleagues in the industry, it's a good way to yeah,
I would say
prepare.
so. I would also say start slow, right? I mean, I started off my public speaking by doing panels first. Get used to the fact that you have an audience. Don't rush. Just certainly don't go out and do keynotes straight off the bat. Start small with panels, and choose those panels wisely. Don't always, start with comfort topics, which will just flow and they're intuitive to you, and then start pushing the boundaries on the nature of the topic. And then maybe if you want to as well, do a dynamic duo presentation. Find somebody who'll probably stand up there with you and you can do a combined presentation because that helps you. But ease yourself into public speaking if you find it difficult and challenging. And the one piece of counsel I will offer is also this. Always, you've got to find your recipe. Some people are able to just flow, like Chani's speech did at TEDx. It flowed from her. And I tend to wing it as well and be quite irreverent, but that's my style. You have to find the style that works for you. Look at TED Talks, get inspiration, but you won't ever be able to copy somebody down verbatim. Just pick and choose characters of those speakers that fit with who you are. And that's your recipe. Don't force something.
Yeah, I think the forcing never works. That's why my first speech never worked, because it wasn't my original words, even though I wrote it and then it got changed throughout the process. And then trying to remember those words was a massive challenge, and I didn't like it because it just didn't feel natural because I had to remember those things. And I always try, and if it's a really important one, something I've tried is you get your slides. If you have slides that you're preparing, have pointers in your slides so you remember the points that you want to talk about, and not to put everything in there, like, so when the slides get too long, people don't like it, but just have pointers. So say, for example, 1 word or 2 words, but you would then remember what to talk about. And also practice in front of a mirror. That helps. And I've also tried, I used to really fear about my accent, not people not being able to understand me properly. So what I would do is I would take my phone and record what I want to talk about. And then after that, I listen to it, and then I listen to myself. Most of the time I think, that's not me. I can't recognize my own voice sometimes. So you think and sometimes, a lot of the time for me, when I'm talking, I hear someone else, but when I record it, then it's a different person. So you can always find your style, like Helen said, and then just be comfortable. I don't think you should stick to certain words. You just need to just talk like you're telling a story. And one tip that Maria has given me was, whenever you go into, I'll give an example. On our last CISO boot camp, I had to do the opening speech, and there were like 100 people in the audience, or even more. And I've never been nervous in my life. I don't know why. I thought I was going to die from a heart attack. Um, so I was like panicking, thinking, because I haven't prepared or done anything to, in terms of what I'm going to talk about. But I knew what I wanted to talk about. I've not done slides, and people were expecting slides probably. It was all in my head. And so Maria took me to a corner and said, this is your event, own it. And that was it. And then I just just went and talked what I had to say. So always, I find that tip really helps me. Even when I go to somebody else's event, I just imagine myself, I own the place and I'm just going to talk to them. And so it's finding what you feel comfortable. Like a few years back, I used to hate public speaking, and I would do anything to just hide somewhere and not do it, and not find any excuse. But it's just pushing yourself to the edge and getting out of your comfort zone. Once you've done that, then it becomes natural, more and more natural. Yeah.
What I would also add here, hi Roseanne, sorry I haven't
Hi,
been able
Diana.
to join from the beginning. I started with public speaking actually last year, and from nothing I jumped to like 7 events where I spoke. But exactly how Helen mentioned, I only apart from the CISO Exec the year before when I was at a training teaching, but apart from the Ladies of London Hacking Society where I actually had a presentation, that was my only one slide, that was it, and then we did an exercise for the audience, so we tried to make it interactive. I only attended panels. And why it's easier, I guess, and even when I was talking about instant response, invited at other conferences, I sat, because my biggest fear, I realized, was the difference of altitude. So the first thing you need to be comfortable with is exactly the difference of altitude, the idea that you are standing and everyone else is sitting, because that's sometimes like, oh my God, all the eyes are on me, etc. I went to some sort of training, and there are many meetups as well if you're interested in public speaking, where you can practice. Even places like, again, Ladies of London Hacking Society, which is a monthly event. I was scared to ask questions, so I would shake even on the idea that, oh my God, I want to ask a question, but I know everyone will look at me. Even that made me nervous. So start small, as you said. Go at events, talk to people. If you work in a team, I don't really know your background, start a small presentation about something and talk in front of them, even if it's just 1 or 2 people. And it doesn't have to be slides. If you know, I hate slides personally. That's why I don't do presentations. I speak freely without any problem, but I don't like slides. So find what makes you comfortable. If you like slides, do that. If you want like the question type of thing, so challenging people and ask for opinion, start from there. Again, as Chani mentioned and Helen, try to find your recipe, but recipe not like what defines you. Be natural. I used to be terrified of my faces. That's why I didn't start my webcam now. I was always like, oh my God, look at my face. And when I gave my first interview at the Cybersecurity Awards last year, I couldn't listen it till the end. It took me like a week, because like, look at my face, look at my eyes, look at my expression. But this is what defines me, and not doing that would mean I would be like a robot and not being myself. So yeah, you don't like my face, turn around, don't look at my face, but that won't change who I am. So practice. That is the key.
Yeah, I think you just don't want to look away from her face when you see her, and that's how pretty she is,
Yeah.
and she's worried about her face. Anyway, thanks, Diana, for that. Any more questions, guys? Cool. I think today is the time we're just going to be finishing right on time. Just
Yeah.
before you go, anything you want to say to the audience, Nisa and Helen? My clock is going.
From my side, just thank you again for the opportunity, and I appreciate you allowing me the opportunity to speak here, and thank you as well to Dida and Nissa for being on this call. It's an honor to be in such esteemed company.
Likewise.
Yes, likewise, Helen. It was great to have you, and I'm sure we will have you more often in our meetups in future as well. Like you
Most
said, this is
definitely.
the open give back platform, so you're welcome anytime.
Yep.
And
Good
we
to know
invite
you,
everyone.
Helen.
Likewise,
Yeah.
ladies, and thank you everybody on this call for your time.
Thank
I
you.
have to run.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Work
And
to do.
take care.
Take care, everybody.
Catch you
All the
later.
best. Bye bye
Bye.
now.
Thank you. Bye.
Nisa, would you like to say something?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, to the community, I must tell you, my life is my message. So, I would say go for it, because you don't know whether it'll end in good or bad, but it's an experience. So forget whatever people tell you did bad, or what happened in the past. Have to face the consequences of technology advancement. We are actually in the era of experiencing it. So be in change of your own self, and physically, mentally, and I must add digitally now. So don't let the criminals get to you. Falling down is also part of life. So, and getting back up is aware of your surroundings and be ready to learn. And I must also add, be ready to unlearn as well, because where the that's only way you can learn new things. Yeah. So what we do at CISO Exec is also we try to empower everyone to be emotionally intelligent leaders, and our style here we are all equal. So we are ready to learn from each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Nisa. And
Mhm.
Dida, thank you very much. Thanks everyone for joining. Any last questions before we finish off? Cool. Thank you, everyone. And just a
One more
reminder,
thing, Chani,
yeah,
thank you
yeah.
so much for the opportunity,
That's all.
and
You're always
wish you
welcome.
luck. Okay.
And just to quickly, don't forget to join for next call as well. I think we have it on every third Tuesday of the month. I'll be
Mhm.
sending out invites. I think the next month we got Kevin, right? Kevin joining us. And I will announce the other speaker later. I need to double check. We've also got few great speakers lined up for next few months. We got Chris Roberts joining, Gary Hayslip,
Mhm.
and DCI Vanessa Smith. Quite a few people lined up for the next few months. So the next meetup's going to be on 17th of February in London at Tech UK. If you know anyone who wants to come, join us. We are more active on LinkedIn. So come join us. And thank you very much. And keep joining and helping each other. Thanks then. Bye.
Thank you, Chani. Thank you, Dida.